Good morning, loved ones. Today I've been thinking a little bit about Jesus's commission that he gave us at the end of Matthew 28 when he commissioned his people to go into all the world and to make disciples of all peoples functionally, to baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and to teach them to observe all things that he taught us to observe. And then he ended with this thought: I am with you always to the very end of the world, to the very end of the age. And I simply wonder, for many of us, when we think about the reaching out into the world in how we engage the lost, do we really feel encouraged and empowered by the thought that Jesus is with us? Or are we intimidated by the go into all the world and make disciples of all people, to baptize them in the name of the Father and the Holy Spirit, and to teach them to observe all things that Jesus taught us to observe? I wonder if we are more intimidated by the task that is at hand than we are encouraged by the fact that God is with us in the process. I hope you're encouraged by the thought that God is with you in the process, that Jesus has said, I will not leave you. But I know many of us feel very, very intimidated by the thought of reaching out to people with the good news that we really believe is good news and for all people's good, but we're intimidated by the engagement, our engagement with those who are far from God. And even though God is with us, we can be overwhelmed by the thought that, oh my gosh, the task is so hard, it is so broad, and people are so resistant. And that's why I want to give you one additional thought, and it is this. Not only is God with us, but God is at work in other people at all times. It's not when we're engaging those who are far from God that it is a cold call and we have to do all the work, with God's help, of course, but we have to do all the work and begin from point A all the way through point Z to seal the deal. And to encourage you in this process, my mind went back to a very well-known book. It's by Robert Coleman. It's called The Master Plan of Discipleship. And in his book, he shows that God, by the Holy Spirit, is always at work in other people. And that he is at work in other people to the extent that there should be, and there probably is around us, people who are ready for spiritual conversations. He points out that in Ephesians 2, that God awakens sinners. In Acts 16, that he opens sinners' hearts. In John 6:44, God is seen as the one who draws people to himself. In 2 Thessalonians 3:1, he shows that the gospel is empowered by the presence of the Holy Spirit. In 1 Corinthians 1:24, explains that he calls the lost to himself. And so not only is God at work in us, empowering us in our going, but he is at work in other people, preparing their hearts to be receptive to the call of the gospel. That's why Jesus said, look to the fields, and in the fields you should see that they are ready, that in there are locations for harvest. And he calls us to look to the world and to open our eyes to the fact that as we look into the world, we should see a harvest that is ready to be brought in. And so it's not only God is with us, but he is actively at work in the lives of people who are far from him. And the book of Acts is a story of the gospel being presented to people whom God has already been working on, that they may receive the good news of the gospel. So loved one, be encouraged. Around you there is a harvest, and God has been at work in the lives of men and women, of those who you care for and whom you love, and whom you will have an opportunity to have a spiritual conversation with today. So in your going into all the world, which for you is the place where you are today, be of good cheer. God is with you, and where you are, he is at work in the people who are around you. God bless. Have a great day.